Hello, kia ora, g'day. I'm Philip Duncan from Weather Watch TV on YouTube with your Australia-only forecast for the next week ahead. 7-day forecast today because we do have a bit of change coming next week for those of you in the south that want rain. If you don't want rain, good luck. We've got more wintry weather coming in off and on around southern parts of Australia over the next week. So like our headline said yesterday, the polar air isn't quitting anytime soon for these southern parts, especially the southwest and the southeast, as you'll see in a moment. But there's a lot more tropical heat further into the mix now as we go through the next few weeks. In fact, quite a big change in the last fortnight or so. So we're now seeing thunderstorms, showers, more of a widespread outbreak here around the top end, Katherine area, coming into the Kimberley. So some of those thunderstorms may be severe, and we've got a few showers and thunderstorms also around the top half of Queensland. They are a bit more isolated, but they're around today. So showery weather dominates the top third of the country with those thunderstorms and all that tropical heat. Further to the southeast, the next cold front passes over Tasmania with another burst of wind and showers. You're kind of used to it now. And further up the coastline, mostly dry, but maybe a couple of showers just around New South Wales this morning. But high pressure is in charge for New South Wales, stretching back to the Great Australian Bight, and then that links up just south of Western Australia with the next high out here over the Indian Ocean. Now there is a wee bit of sinking low pressure. The northerly winds coming down here in Western Australia, pulling down that tropical heat on the back edge of the high. And on the other side of the high, westerly winds blowing over Tassie. Not as bad as it's been, and those temperatures aren't as cold because that northerly wind coming out of, or coming down through parts of Western Australia is tied up a wee bit to the airflow that is coming in now with the westerlies for Tassie itself. So there are a few things going on at the moment, but high pressure around the south is quite dominant, except as you notice on Wednesday, and I mentioned this a couple of times in the last few weeks, the highs aren't actually over Australia. One is centred out here. I mean, Lord Howe Island, that's part of Australia, but not the mainland. So that's where we've got one high. The next one out here over the Indian Ocean, yet to properly come in to Western Australia. That means there is some low pressure here, where you see these sort of smaller circles, little areas of low pressure kind of bubbling away. So as that tropical heat gets pulled southwards, on the back edge really of the Tasman Sea high pressure zone, that's where you'll start to feel the heat, the humidity, and then these showers. Now, they're fairly isolated, those showers, nothing too major in there, but you could be seeing a few thunderstorms. Certainly around parts of Queensland, the risk of thunderstorms is in there, wherever you see the greens and the yellows here. So it sort of fans out over a large distance. Not so much though in the main centres. A lot of the main centres on the edges of these more thundery downpours, and especially on the coastline where you've just got easterlies and showers, a couple of those coming down into New South Wales. Otherwise, pretty dry in most other places. As we go towards Thursday, not a great deal of change except the high pressure zone in Western Australia and the southwest here just sort of spinning around or sliding around to the south here, mostly in the coastal zone. Does drive in a few showers into the southwest, and further up here, inland parts of Western Australia, especially going right up into the Kimberley, you've got thunderstorms, maybe severe, as you're seeing also around the top end in Katherine, mostly west of Darwin, southwest of Darwin, not necessarily over the city itself. As you go into Queensland, you've got sort of a different set of weather depending on where you are. Some heavy rain or showers around the far north of Queensland, further easterly showers coming in as you drop down around Townsville, Mackay, and then a few thunderstorms inland for central parts of Queensland. Some of those might just spill over to northern parts of New South Wales. New South Wales is warmer, hotter even, with those northwesterly winds cranking up. And around parts of South Australia, Victoria, just a few showers with once more that airflow off the sea. Southwesterlies, not necessarily overly warm for you, but not as cold as it's been in Tasmania. So trying to find some winds. Now, I shouldn't have spoke too soon about Tassie. Sorry, here comes the next polar change on Friday of this week. Another surge of wintry conditions, windy west to southwesterlies, west coast rain and showers, maybe a thunderstorm or two. Not too much in the way of thunderstorms, and those eastern, more populated areas in the east and the north are looking fairly dry. Now as you go northwards, we do have some showers around Victoria, not a huge amount at the pale blue shading there right at the bottom of the scale, but you never know, one could be heavy with thunder. Thunderstorms perhaps more likely into New South Wales where they top up of wet weather into some of the same places that got it on Sunday. So there's some good news for you, building up the rain as we head in towards the drier, hotter season. So that's good to see, I think, for the most part, the wet weather around New South Wales. Let's go into the weekend, because now we start to get the next big change. We'll start off with the heat. So the red tropical line here, north of that, hotter, humid weather. So we're seeing that line sink right down now, pulling down over the Great Australian Bight. So that is a fairly hot northerly flow. Temperatures 35, 40 degrees as you go further inland. Here comes the next polar change as you go to the southwest corner of Western Australia. So spring-like weather could be a safe bet for the southern half of Western Australia, with really hot conditions on one side, colder weather coming in on the other. And that hot weather obviously pushing into South Australia here as we go through Saturday, mostly on the left-hand side, the western side. And as we go over to the eastern part of Australia, or the southeast, we've got some high pressure in there, and that just twists the weather around. It pushes the polar boundary out to the east of Tasmania by the early afternoon. So that means your temperatures lift up by the time you reach Saturday afternoon, as those hot winds come out of South Australia, and now they'll start to move into Tasmania, lifting up the temperatures. And as you jump further up here, the northeast corner of New South Wales and the southeast corner of Queensland, seeing a bit of convergence, a few showers bubbling up, maybe some thunderstorms in there as well. Otherwise dry for many other places, maybe a couple of showers southwest of Darwin once more. And it stays that way into Sunday, a couple of showers up here, isolated ones, but you can see the heat pushing further now into South Australia, plus low pressure behind it. So this is where things get a little more interesting as we go into next week, because you've got hot weather dropping southwards, very close to Adelaide. You've got low pressure forming over South Australia, and then just behind that, the wintry change coming in to the southwest of Western Australia. So that means as we go into the start of next week, some of this stuff's going to merge as it moves eastwards. So we've got westerly winds, northwesterly winds, and northerlies around the eastern side of Australia. And as you go into Queensland, that tropical line further and further being pushed eastward. So a lot of places will be feeling the heat. New South Wales will also feel it, but not as bad. But your temperatures also go up on Sunday. And further, here on Monday, as everything starts to collide and merge together, and that's what we call dynamic weather. Things can change, things can rapidly change to what is forecast, usually in the form of thunderstorms or a line of heavy rain. So that's what we're seeing here, convergence all the way back to the Pilbara region and all the way down to Tasmania. We could be seeing some thunderstorms forming in this zone, along with low pressure, and all that heat pulled into New South Wales now, further into Queensland. So a lot hotter for a number of places, with that wind pushing right out to Sydney as well. But at the same time, down here in Tassie, as the rain arrives, similar story around parts of South Australia and to Victoria, the polar boundary is moving along. And that takes us to the map 1 week from today. And by the way, the map for next Wednesday also looks kind of interesting for rain in the southeast. Here it is in South Australia on Tuesday. Polar air left over, tropical air nearby, in between thunderstorms, downpours, rain, hopefully bringing some relief to those of you that really want it. And if you're feeling like you're missing out in Victoria or New South Wales, like I say, I don't have it on today's video, but the Wednesday map 8 days from now shows more rain. So we'll pick that up tomorrow as we take a closer look at heat pulling down from the tropics, cold polar air being surged in, very much spring-like for the bottom half of Australia, while the top half now starting to really feel heat, humidity, showers, and daily thunderstorms. That's all from me for today. Catch you again tomorrow as we take another look at your long-range forecast around Australia.